show The Way of the Spiritual Path. Why the way? Because it's understanding the laws and principles that govern the way of the spiritual path. I've got my way, you've got your way, and I know, Keith, you've got your way.
Indeed.
This is Keith Dykes. He is a spiritual, clairvoyant, clairaudient, psychic, intuitive. He does professional hypnotherapy, counseling, especially relationship counseling. And there's so many gifts that Keith brings to the table. You've worked with many, many clients.
Yeah.
One of the topics that comes up over and over again is boundaries. So
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about boundaries. What have you noticed with boundaries? I mean, what area of life do they come up in?
Well, it comes up in all areas, really, but what I noticed over time, and this is, again, it's a if you've been in practice for a while, you begin to understand that retrospectively, clients are showing up with the same sorts of things. There's a routine in what we do that gets our sessions started and gets our work going. And that's kind of ABC, right? Correct in order. But then there's a theme that started to develop.
What kind of problems
What
are
kinds
coming?
of problems are associated with certain situations and what's going on. And so I know in your work, you do the family
systems, internal family systems.
family
the
systems.
subconscious work is what everybody knows it by.
It's very similar to that because what I notice, and I do something called timeline therapy, and that's where we take a person back to the origin of an event. And we clear it before it happened, clear the emotions out before the emotions are present, and get the situation moving forward again. And then on our journey back to now, from the past to today, we clear every situation that had ever occurred. Then, so the
repeat.
Correct. So the information, the emotion is not there anymore. And what we do in my work is we preserve the lessons.
Yes.
The lessons are important. We want those because it helps us grow and that helps us move forward in life. But we don't want the baggage that's associated with it.
The pain.
Exactly.
To get to the lesson.
Exactly. So over time, I began to see a theme, and predominantly with women, and it's because they think that they're being mean or not doing the correct thing by sticking to their boundaries. And so over time, I just began to notice a theme, and again, it's particularly in women. And I'm pro-girl, and I want to do everything I can help with divine feminine work.
So that means empowering women
absolutely.
to speak their truth.
Yeah, speak your truth.
A lot of times the programming has been, you be a good little girl.
Exactly.
And little girls don't get angry. Little girls don't raise your voice. You just sit there and look pretty and do as I say.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about boundaries is this. If you had a stop sign that said boundary, but it was a stop sign and it said stop, you would look at it, right? Because you'd have that visual thing that's out there that says stop and take a look. We get on a rhythm in life and routines in life, and that person over there says something that is inappropriate. It doesn't match what your values are. It doesn't match what your core beliefs are. And
disrespectful.
It's disrespectful. So you decide, okay, well, I'm going to just let them do it this one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back to the situation and it happens again. And then you move forward in life and it happens again. And then you're accepting of this behavior by a spouse. And then you can get into emotional abuse and things can escalate. So those things escalate because you developed a boundary and you had that stop sign. That stop sign is important. That's the boundary. It says stop here, take a look at my inner resources, figure out what's going on, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and how do I move forward. It's the same thing with spiritual work. In spiritual work all the time, I am very strict about my boundaries. I will only work with a certain type of clientele. There are people that go and have readings done all the time, and that becomes their therapy. Mm-hmm.
But they're dependent on other people to make their reality.
Exactly.
And that's not really healthy.
Exactly. And so I have a skill set, I have those glasses on that can track that person when they walk in the door. Mm-hmm. I try to not see that client. Mm-hmm. And I usually do that through a phone call. I always buffer my sessions with a phone call so that I can sort of figure out who's coming to me. And because I don't have a secretary, I work for myself, I literally field all of my phone calls. And the reason, I think it's a good thing, is because I do psychic readings and mediumship work, and I also do Reiki energy healing work, but I also do these therapeutic models that I have to have that phone call to go, where are we going?
And who is this person?
And who is this person, and where, what's going on? So it's important to develop that. I never answer my phone on the first call if it's an unrecognizable number. That's a boundary for me. As a business person, I always let it go to voicemail. I always sift through that call, and I'll call them back. I have no problems calling back. But it's going to go to voicemail first, because my cell phone is my business phone. I have 2 numbers on that cell phone. So if I don't recognize the number, that's my boundary. I'm just putting it in place for myself to make my life easier. So that's a simple boundary. But in, say, in relationships, you have an abusive spouse, or what you perceive to be an abusive spouse.
Well, see, the deal is, backing up. When we're told and modeled as a child,
exactly. And
don't speak back,
absolutely,
don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. Nobody says, okay, you can stop being like this now. You're an adult.
Yes.
Now you can speak up for yourself. Now you can say your truth. Now you can stand up. Now you can tell people no.
But oftentimes you don't, because you've created habits that allow you just to glaze past all of that.
Right.
Those stop signs get ignored.
Right. Because you've not been permitted nor taught.
Exactly.
Because the parent doesn't want to deal with a defiant child who's actually just saying,
yes,
I'm not okay with the way you're treating me. Yes, I'm 5 years old, but I'm not feeling this.
Yes, but at the same time, the parent is not aware that their parent did the same thing to them.
Exactly.
And so it's important to recognize that stuff, it has DNA.
Yeah.
It travels through the DNA.
Right.
And one of the things, having been intuitive, that I knew was the buck stops here. I'm not passing this to my children. And I feel like in my life, I stopped a lot of the things that were generational and dealt with them.
I find that this generation, or at least my clientele, are the people who are saying, this has been in my family, this has been in my family, and this has been in my family. These habits, these words, these ways, poverty consciousness, whatever it is. And I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And then they'll come to me, and they'll come and they'll be like, why is this work so hard? How come I'm not? I said, because it's generational.
Yeah.
It's like, S rolls downhill.
Yep.
And then it's finally that person who's halfway down the mountain is like, I'm not sending this down to my kids, my nieces and nephews. I'm done. I'm not bringing this into the world anymore. And it's almost like you have to turn around all that downward energy and just say no, no. So it's almost saying boundaries to whatever's been programmed within us, our family habits, the way we do things, the way we treat one another, the way we speak to one another.
Sure. That's why we have HR departments in corporate America. Use them. Use HR. They're there. And a lot of people are afraid to go report things. They're there for a reason. They're there to protect you. Unions are a boundary. These are all boundaries that are in our life. The police are a boundary. The laws are a boundary. Those are all different representations of boundaries. But I want to speak specifically to relationship and women, because what I saw categorically, and when I saw it, I have to stop this from transferring onto other. I have to stop it. So when I began to see these models pop up, I saw that these women were angry at their spouse, didn't know why they were angry at their spouse. And so they would sit in my chair, and I would interview them and go through these processes, and I would say, what are you really angry about? What's going on? What's pissing you off? What's going on here that's upsetting you? So I actually have a visual guide that I can. You want to do a process with me?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So you've got this internal representation. That's what we call them.
Okay.
Something that's going on internally of what's happening in your life, and you don't like what's going on, and you can't figure it out. You really want to get rid of it, but you can't figure it out.
Some kind of discomfort.
Something that's going on in your relationship. I'm mad at him. I don't know why I'm mad at him. Or I'm mad at her, and I don't know why I'm mad at her. Okay, stop. Take a breath. Reset. That's a reset. After you take your breath, you hold your hand out. And you pull this feeling onto the palm of the hand.
Okay.
What's going on that Ursula's not happy with right now? And put it right there. Do you have an example?
I can't say it out loud in public.
It's okay. You can keep it private. But here's the question that you ask yourself.
Okay.
Is it mine or is it someone else's?
Oh, this is someone else's.
Okay, perfect. So it's someone else's, right?
Right.
Do you have something to learn from this?
Oh, yeah. Always.
Does it have value for you?
Yes.
Does it have to be internal and you hold on to it?
No.
It's external. It's out here. What's the lesson that you need to learn from it?
Beautiful.
So have you learned your lesson?
Yes.
Okay, take the lesson, pull it back in.
Just the lesson?
Pull the lesson back in.
I don't need the pain.
You don't need the pain.
Not the discomfort.
You don't need the discomfort.
That doesn't give any value.
It has no value whatsoever.
Okay, here's the lesson. Boink.
And I like to put it in my heart space.
Okay.
Right in the heart space.
There it is.
Integrate it back into who you are.
Yep.
You allow it to then go into your body, your DNA.
What do I do with this?
You say goodbye.
Bye.
Or if this is an important person, a mom or a dad or someone that has been an important figure, or someone who might have modeled something for you, or a younger version of yourself. Oftentimes it's a younger version of yourself. So then you want to be a coach to that person. And you want to say, can I give you a different job? Thank you, you've served your purpose. Can I give you a different job? And oftentimes they'll say, sure. Or you might hear, no, I'd like to retire. You'll go with those it's a dialogue thing that you have with yourself. Your subconscious mind is so powerful.
So powerful.
So powerful that you can literally rewrite your history. You can literally go in and do this work on yourself. I like being a therapist. I like people coming to see me. So come and see me. But if you don't come and see me, come and see Ursula because she could do the same kind of work. But you can do this at home yourself just by being aware and conscious of what's going on, taking a breath, putting that party out here and saying, what do I have to learn from you? You take the lesson, you integrate it back into your core, your heart. I like to use the heart. That's just the space that I operate from. I integrate it back in. Now, the younger version is really important. If it's a younger version of you that's screaming, that's inner child work. That's something that needs to be addressed because you did not do that work yet. So you have to go back and address that.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, the domino effect.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in our lives, anybody's life, trauma will happen early on, and we won't know what to do. We don't have the tools. We don't have the resources. We don't have the support, so we stuff it. But it's in there almost as if it's a person in the box, or we throw it in the cellar, we throw it in the attic, we throw it in the closet. When they talked about the skeletons in the closet, it's these parts of us that are like, and they'll beat against the door. So that thing will repeat again. So if it's like a molestation, it happens early, and then we end up, we're playing with some kids, and then, whoa, it happens again. And then that was weird. We kind of tucked the earlier one, and then this other one was just kind of a weird thing. So we just kind of do that again. Again, the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And once trauma happens, it's almost, there's a muting, especially around the molestation.
Correct.
There's a muting that happens. So when it happens again, we don't see the stop sign, and we don't tell the story. And then, it happens again. And then, I drank too much, and it happened again. And then you're kind of married to that kind of situation. Or you're in a wonderful marriage, like, made it through that thing. And then, whoa, now it happens with a coworker, and you're just like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, how the heck did I get here?
Yes. Yeah. So that's the thing. So when you say someone else is maybe triggering us, and it's based on our past experiences.
So it's interesting because that 5-year-old you that is going, me, pay attention, has a boundary in place. That 5-year-old you said, stop it right now. Something's not okay. Something's not okay. And so it doesn't matter what the situation really is, or, we can call it whatever we want. But that 5-year-old self said, stop. Something's not okay. I'm not comfortable with this. And so then these habits got created around behavioral patterns then show up. And then you begin to operate in this numb-like state.
Very numb.
That allows these behaviors to continue on. But then suddenly, maybe you have a child and you go, I don't want to pass this on. Or maybe you get a new relationship. I don't want to pass this on. So then you've got to go back, and that 5-year-old is your best friend.
Truly.
It has been screaming at you your entire life, and you've got to love it. You've got to go back and show it love. So what I like to do in my work is I like to take you and we're going to pull those things out again. The you that's in the room that's addressing this, pull that you out, palm of the hand, and pull that 5-year-old out on the palm of this hand. Put them face to face. Let them have a conversation. What does the 5-year-old have to say to the adult you? So begin to have that conversation. And allow the dialogue just to play out. It's a subconscious dialogue that the inner child needs to express itself. And then after you allow those two pieces to begin to speak, the adult you who knows better needs to give advice and coaching to the younger you. And oftentimes what that looks like is, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm so sorry that you held this banner for me for all this time. This is such a great task that you did for me. Is there anything I can do for you? Can I just release you today and integrate you back into me? Or would you like to be given a different job? Oftentimes that 5-year-old's going to say, I just want to go play on the playground. I just want to be a kid. I don't want to have to deal with this. So then you begin to allow those hands, and the hands will come together. If I'm doing this in my session work, these hands will start pulling together. The subconscious mind is very powerful. And as we begin to do the trance work around, or the hypnotic work around it, these hands will automatically come together and suddenly lock. And that means that you've done it. And you can do this at home. You don't need me in the room. It's very important for you to understand that. Exactly what I just described, you can pull it out, have it talk, let those two things merge. If you want to bring it back to your heart space, that's perfect. That's what I do. And that's so very easy to do. It's such an easy process.
Tell me about the story, the Aquarius story.
Yeah, so I wrote an article on boundaries and relationships. And what I described in the article was how generational things can be passed down, and how a grandmother and a mother can influence a daughter, just as we've talked before about. So then this stuff begins to show up in your relationship, in your marriage, in your relationship with your partner. I wrote the article.
I always say we either marry our mother, our father, or the opposite of one of them.
Or the combination of the both. Sometimes it's an interesting combination. But no, I wrote this article, and I really just came from a heart space and described boundaries and why they were important. And I had a woman who called me, and she said, you have no idea how that touched me, and how important it was for me to read this material. I don't need your services, but just by voicing what you've done, you've changed my life. And so I hope that this is life-changing for someone out there who can take the time to analyze, is grandma in my relationship? Because that's kind of inappropriate.
Right.
Is mom in my relationship? Because that's inappropriate.
Right.
And maybe I should tell my mom to go back to her relationship. And oftentimes you have to create that physical boundary and say, Mom, stop. This is not who I am.
So often in the subconscious work, when I'm working with people, a part of them, we talk about our parts in this model that I do. So a part of them will come in and interrupt the process that's happening. And I'll be saying, oh, it sounds like another part came in. Who's that? And they're like, that's my mom. What's my mom doing in here? And I said, well, it's not really your mom. It's your replacement of your mom.
Correct.
Because you don't want to hear her all the time. So you put a little model of her inside to talk to you.
Absolutely.
So and when people say, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother, it's because that programming has been so embedded within us.
Yeah.
So we can take those voices and those lines of dialogue and the put downs or the criticism or whatever the delivery was,
Yeah.
and remove them from ourselves and our relationships so we can relate together.
Yeah.
So your dad has recently passed, and
Yeah.
you set a boundary around work.
I did. I've always been, I try to be impeccable in my work. I try to do my best to be 100% present. And a boundary for me was to take the time off to honor what I was feeling and go through the process. And much of my year last year was really kind of sluggy, slow work. And I didn't realize, what was going on. But since I am intuitive, I now retrospectively can go, oh, your dad was going to commit suicide last year. And so I figured out again recently. I had another death, and I've had quite a large amount of death. It's important. That's a boundary as well. I'm not my best self. I had clients that were regular clients, and I call them and I said, I'm not my best, and I don't want to give you anything less than my best. So are you okay with me taking this time to do what I need to do to heal myself? And then I did exactly that. I went and did what I needed to do. I mourned. I gave grief what it needed, and came back. And I'm fully refreshed because I did that. That is also a boundary.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So talking about boundaries today and how many ways there are to be in the state of boundary keeping. First of all, understanding boundaries, because many of us have lived lives from generations that no boundaries were in place. Understanding that when we don't feel okay, when something feels violating, when something feels disrespectful, that we're allowed to say, you know what, I really don't appreciate it. I feel terrible when you speak to me that way. Let's find another way to communicate. So communication around boundaries is huge.
Absolutely.
And that could be a whole other show.
But the first step is permission.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to have boundaries. They're so important.
Very important. It's really honoring. So if our ego says, oh, I'm a piece of crap anyway and I don't deserve anything, then at least say, okay, fine, ego, but I'm also a spiritual person. I'm a child of God. And that does deserve more respect.
Yeah.
So I have found that's helpful to come from that state of mind. So keeping boundaries in relationship, in workplace, especially spiritual boundaries.
Spiritual boundaries that's a whole topic. That's a whole different topic.
It sure is.
I could go on about that and teaching that, and it's very important. So
And
find a reputable teacher.
In pranic healing, we have a whole class on it. It's called Psychic Self-Defense.
Yeah.
Around keeping spiritual boundaries. So if people have entities, and I have another friend and she says, bring your own body. I'm not doing channeling, bring your own body. So I really appreciate your expertise, bringing it here and sharing your understanding, your education, your gifts. Thank you for joining us on the way of the spiritual path.